Hindi or Urdu version is in description.
You might have seen some shocking images online, photos claiming that Squid Game actually happened. But here's the truth, those images are not real. Squid Game has never happened in real life. But what if I told you the real game is much quieter and heartbreaking under the guise of welfare? And this was South Korea. Yes, South Korea. It's hard to believe given how modern and developed it is now. Today, we will see how hundreds of people lost their lives in a government backed facility called Brothers Home. A place more disturbing than fiction. A man behind this who was sentenced for 10 years but walked free in just 30 months. And a story of a young boy, a story among hundreds. A boy who endured unthinkable hardships for many years. After the Korean War ended in 1953, South Korea was left in chaos, destroyed, millions displaced. Streets were filled with orphans, beggars, and homeless. In effort to clean its global image, the government launched what they called a social welfare project, but it was anything but welfare. President Park Chung-hee ordered city police to remove what they called the undesirable from sight. Homelessness was not treated, it was hidden. Rehabilitation centers were created, but they were not hospitals. They were more like prisons. And worst, they became forced labor sites. Police formed cleaning teams who were paid per person captured. It didn't matter who it was, an old man, a child, a passerby. If you were caught on the street, you could disappear. And that was the start of South Korea's real life Squid Game. One such facility was named Brothers Home. It sounded harmless, even kind, but in reality, it was a terrible institution built on fear. Survivors recall how detainees were stripped, dressed in blue uniforms, and grouped into platoons. Each platoon had a leader, not a staff member, but a fellow prisoner, trained to control through aggression. Children as young as 8 were taken there. One boy, Han Jung-sun, was taken from outside a police station while waiting for his father. No trial, no explanation, just thrown into a van and gone. Another child, Koi, arrived the same day. That night, he was mistreated, hosed down with freezing water, then abused in a way too painful to speak of. And this was normal. This was daily. Wake up at 6 a.m., forced labor till night, starvation, beatings, emotional breakdowns. Anyone who resisted was made an example. Some tried to escape, and their entire platoon was punished. In 1986, South Korea was preparing for the Olympics. The world was watching, and the government wanted to present spotless image. Officials gave silent orders: no homeless people on the streets, no protests, no attention. Brothers' Home was expanded to hold even more undesirables. But behind those concrete walls, a silent tragedy was unfolding. Hundreds of people lost their lives inside those camps, mostly unrecorded, buried in unnamed graves. Only 10% of detainees were actually homeless, the rest, innocent civilians, poor, sick, or simply unlucky. Children were mistreated and women were harmed in a way that I can't even speak right now. The mentally ill were dragged and isolated in psychiatric wards until they either broke or didn't make it. The camp generated millions for the government through forced labor, from matchsticks to textile items exported with no trace of the suffering behind them. Everything could have remained hidden, buried under the silence and shame until one man decided to look closer. It was late 1986. A lawyer named Kim Yong-won was walking through a forest on the outskirts of Busan when he heard something strange, cries and shouting. He followed the sound and stumbled upon a group of men being mistreated by guards. These were not criminals. These were not convicts. Kim didn't turn away. The deeper he dug, the darker the truth became, and all trails led to the brothers' home. When he finally entered the facility through legal channels, what he found shocked even seasoned prosecutors. Rooms packed with children, elderly men locked up next to the mentally ill, people lined up for hours, hands blistered from forced labor. There were no records, no legal charges, just hundreds of people held against their will. And the worst part, it was all sanctioned by the system. Kim knew this wasn't just cruelty, it was a crime on a massive scale. He gathered evidence, recorded testimonies, risked his life speaking out against the people in power. And finally, in January 1987, he succeeded. A court-ordered raid was launched. Police stormed the facility and freed the people. The officials never shared the exact number. And what about justice? It never truly arrived. The man in charge, Park In-kyun, the camp's operator, was found guilty. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but through legal loopholes and influence, that sentence was cut to just 30 months. He walked free in under 3 years. And what about the survivors? The people who had been taken, caged, forced to work and broken, they received nothing. No formal apology, no government compensation, and no names placed on the forgotten graves of those who never made it out. Just silence and the trauma that never left. To this day, many of their stories remain undocumented. Their suffering was swept under the rug, and Kim Jong-won, he continued his fight, but the system he challenged was too big and too protected. If you have made it this far, take a pause, like the video, and consider subscribing to the channel so that you won't miss out any content. In the show, contestants enter in a secret arena. It's hidden, isolated, and controlled. In real life, the arena is much larger and much harder to escape. It can be your home, your street, your workplace. They had the voting option, but in real life, you don't get that option. Here, the game doesn't end, it just restarts. Every morning you wake up under the weight of your bills. The arena is a system you live in, the one where your survival depends on how much you can endure and how much you can win. The International Labour Organization reports that the millions of people are trapped in some form of modern day exploitation, including debt bondage, where individuals work for years just to repay an unending loan. According to the World Bank, over 700 million people live on less than $2.15 per day. In US, over 42 million Americans hold $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, a burden many never escape from, even into their retirement. And before you move on to the next video, I would like to request one more minute of yours, as this might make a difference for many watching this right now. Maybe you are not in control of the game around you, but you are in control of how you show up in it. You have made it through days you thought would break you, but you are still here, still standing. You are stronger than you think, no matter how unfair the system is. Your effort still matters, your dreams still count, and your story isn't over yet. This is not the end, this is the part where you turn unstoppable. If you like this video, then I would request you to check out our other videos as well. The link is in description.